students, today in this module we will be discussing about hazardous waste. Now the hazardous waste module we will be discussing in two parts, in two modules. In the present module we will discuss about its definition, sources, classification, collection and segregation. In the upcoming module, that is in module 13, we will be discussing about its treatment and disposal options available. Now before getting into the learning objectives of this module, you should know what is actually an hazardous waste. Now hazardous waste is a type of solid waste and it is a type based classification. Now when do you call a waste to be hazardous? It should possess four characteristics. One is your corrosivity, reactivity, ignitability and toxicity. Any waste material possessing one or all of these characteristics, then you categorize them as hazardous waste. Now these hazardous waste are of great importance because they need a separate management plan or method. Since they affect the environment and the health of an individual to a greater level, they are categorized or given a special importance in solid waste management. Now with this introduction, now let's look into the learning objectives of this module. So in this module, you will understand and define what is an hazardous waste, what are its sources of generation. Then you will gain knowledge on the classification of hazardous waste. You will also familiarize with methods of collection that is being involved in collecting the hazardous waste, and then we will discuss about various methods of segregation. Now, what is hazardous waste? The US Resource Conservation and Recovery Act, in short you call it as RCRA. They in 1976 have defined hazardous waste as any waste that is toxic or hazardous if they cause or significantly contribute to an increase in mortality or an increase in serious, irreversible, incapacitating, reversible illness or pose a sustainable potential hazard to human health or the environment when improperly treated, stored, transported, disposed of or otherwise managed. They are called as hazardous waste. Now, a hazardous waste is an hazardous substance that is discarded, accumulated, stored, physically, chemically or biologically treated prior to their disposal, or it has served its original intended use and sometimes is discarded, or it can also be manufacturing or a mining byproduct and sometimes discarded. Now RCRA regulations 40 CFR 261 and 262, they specify that a solid waste is a hazardous waste if it is not excluded from the regulation and meets any of the following conditions. 2 has been named as a hazardous waste and listed as such in the regulation. 3 is a mixture containing the listed hazardous waste and a non-hazardous solid waste. Is a waste derived from the treatment, storage or disposal of a listed hazardous waste. Now any solid waste that exhibits one or more of these characteristics, as I told you earlier, the ignitability, corrosivity, reactivity and toxicity, they are all called as hazardous waste. Now in this table, whatever characteristics I told you like the reactivity, toxicity, ignitability or corrosivity, now this table we will see what are the relevant features and the associated risks. Now when do you call a substance to possess an ignitable characteristics? Now a liquid except aqueous solutions containing less than 24% alcohol that has a flash point less than 60 degrees Celsius. Second, any non-liquid capable under normal conditions of spontaneous and sustained combustion. Third, an ignitable compressed gas per DOT regulations. Fourth one, an oxidizer per DOT regulations. Now what are the associated risks with the ignitability? Now any substance which is identified to possess a fire hazard during routine management. Fires not only pose immediate danger of heat and smoke, they also spread harmful particles over wide areas. Now, the second characteristic is corrosivity. Any aqueous material with pH less than or equal to 2 or greater than or equal to 12.5, or a liquid that corrodes steel at a greater rate than 0.25 inch per year at a temperature of 55 degrees Celsius are all categorized as corrosive waste. Now, this is a waste which will require a special container due to its ability to corrode standard materials or require segregation from other waste because their ability to dissolve toxic contaminants are high. The third characteristic is your reactivity. Reactivity is also the potential of a waste material to show or behave in an explosive manner. Now, these are normally unstable and they will react violently without detonating. They react violently with water, they form an explosive mixture with water, they generate toxic gases, vapors, fumes when they mix with water. They contain cyanide or sulfide and generate toxic gases or vapor or fumes at a pH between 2 and 12.5. They are capable of detonating when heated under confinement or when they are subjected to initiating sources. Now, they are capable of detonation at standard temperature and pressure. So, they are also listed as a class A or class B explosive according to the DOT regulations. Now, these waste during routine management, they tend to react more spontaneously and they react vigorously with air or water, and they tend to be unstable to shock or heat. Also, they generate toxic gases while exploding. The fourth important characteristic is your toxicity. So, according to the toxicity characteristic leaching procedure, which is in short called as TCLP procedure, it is designed to produce an extract stimulating the leachate that may be produced in a land disposal situation. Now, this extract will be then analyzed to determine the toxic contaminants which is listed in table 2. These things will be listed in the rules also. If the concentration of any of the table 2 constituents exceeds the level listed, then they will be categorized as hazardous waste. Now, the toxicity of a waste may also be declared by the generator based upon the knowledge of the waste or the generating process. What I mean to say is, like, whosoever is using these products for manufacturing purpose, if they know that the compound is having some toxicity, then they can inform us while treating or disposing them. Okay? Now, the toxicity waste, when improperly managed, they might release lot of toxicants in sufficient quantities to possess a substantial hazard to either the human beings or any living organisms or to the environment. Now, in this table, you can see in the previous table I told you the concentration or the toxicity levels of some certain pollutants are listed in table 2. Now, this is a table 2 which talks about the toxicity concentration of each of these contaminants. For example, if you see arsenic, the regulatory levels is 5 milligram per liter. For barium, it is 100, benzene 0.5. Likewise, cadmium, it is 1 milligram per liter, carbon tetrachloride 0.5, chloridane 0.03, chlorobenzene 100 milligram per liter, and so on. So, among this, if you see, the highest level is given to orthocresol, metocresol and paracresol. Now, these herbicides, if you see 2,4-D, 1,4-dichlorobenzene solvents, 1,2-dichloroethane and all, 2,4-D has a regulatory level of 10 milligram per liter, and 1,4-dichlorobenzene has 7.5 and 1,2-dichloroethane has 0.5 milligram per liter. That means lower the regulatory level, more is the toxicity for the substance. The effect of toxic chemicals in the environment can produce a lot of health effects, both either chronic or acute illness. Acute is like immediate and chronic on a longer scale. Okay? It depends on the dosage, frequency, duration and concentration, which can be determined by carrying out a risk assessment. So, this is basically done like what is the level of exposure of a pollutant on a particular animal or a human being, how long you are being exposed and how many times are you being exposed, and during the exposure what is the concentration which is there. So, all these things can be determined using risk assessment, and based on this you can identify or propose the regulatory levels. The purpose of risk assessment is generally done to ensure that a regional margin of safety you always maintain, especially with human health effects, and they do not result from exposure that are caused by production or waste management practices. Now the table continues, and you can find again a lot of heavy metals and other organic solvents and organic pollutants which are there, and the different toxicity levels which are given here. So if you see mercury, again 0.2 milligram per liter. Now all these things are again listed in your hazardous waste management rules. Now let us discuss about the sources from where these hazardous waste are being generated. The inclusive listing that is adopted by EPA, EPA is the Environmental Protection Agency. They include separate list for non-specific sources, specific source waste and commercially chemical products. Now these lists are described briefly in the upcoming slides. Now let us discuss about the non-specific source waste. Now this is generally called as a F waste because the Environmental Protection Agency codes begin with the letter F. Now what are these wastes? These are generic wastes that are commonly produced by manufacturing and industrial processes. Now examples of these waste will be spent halogenated solvents that are generally used in degrazing and wastewater treatment, sludges that are obtained from the electroplating process. It also includes the dioxin waste, which are generally termed as acutely hazardous waste, depending upon the danger that they pose on the human health and the environment. Now benzene, methylene, chloride, trichloroethylene, carbon tetrachloride are again the solvents, few of the solvents which are generally listed in the F list. Now the solvent blends with 10% or greater are included in the F list. The second type of waste is your specific source waste. Now it is generally called as a K waste. The code is specially identified by certain industries like your wood preserving, petroleum refining and organic chemical manufacturing industries. Now these waste generally include the sludges, the bottom stills, waste waters, the spent catalyst and residues. Example which is obtained from your wastewater treatment, sludge containing pigments. The third type of waste is your commercial chemical products. They are generally denoted by P and U codes. They generally include specific commercial chemical products or manufacturing chemical intermediates. Now the commercial pure grade chemicals or any other formulations with either of these chemicals as active ingredients are listed in P and U list. Now the P list is generally differentiated from the U list based on the quantity at which the chemical is regulated. Now the acute toxic waste whose accumulation or generation exceeds 1 kg per month are categorized as P, unlike your U list where the waste generation will be higher, that is 25 kilograms per month. This list includes chemicals like your chloroform, creosote, acids such as your sulfuric acid, hydrochloric acid, pesticides like DDT which are generally used in larger proportions. Now EPA has also ruled that most mixtures of solid waste and the listed hazardous waste are considered hazardous and they also should be managed accordingly. What they mean to say is like there might be a solid waste, but that it also contains certain the listed hazardous waste. So when there is a mixture also it has to be treated like a hazardous waste. Now this applies regardless of the percentage of the hazardous component in the waste mixture. Now without such regulation, generators could evade RCRA requirements simply by mixing or diluting the listed waste with non-hazardous solid waste. So for example, if you do not want to go for these hazardous waste management practices, wherever you have this mixed waste, you can just dilute it with the non-hazardous material and then you can skip out this RCRA regulatory measures. Now waste that are derived from hazardous waste like your residues from the treatment, storage and disposal of a listed hazardous waste are generally considered as hazardous as well. Welcome back. Now in the first part of this module we discussed about the definition of hazardous waste according to the RCRA regulations. Then we discussed about what are the characteristics that you will look into when you categorize a waste as hazardous, like your corrosivity, reactivity, ignitability and toxicity. Now then we defined what are the characteristics of each, what are the characteristics which you will look into each of these specific characteristics, like what are the materials, when do you call a material to be hazardous, like when do you call a material to be ignitable or flammable, reactive, toxic and so on. We also saw what are the specific characteristics which they possessed. Then we discussed about the various sources from which these hazardous wastes are generated and when do you put or include a waste into hazardous category, whether even if it is having a mixture of other solid waste or when to skip the RCRA regulations. Now in this part we will discuss about the classification and segregation of the hazardous waste. Now let us discuss about the classification of hazardous waste. Now hazardous waste is generally categorized or classified into 6 categories. First is your radioactive waste. Now the radioactive waste is any substance that emit ionizing radiations. They are waste that is generated from those substances which possess the radioactive ability, or generally they are termed as radioactive waste. Now they are categorized as a separate group, but still they are studied under the hazardous waste category. Overall if you see, you have a separate management plan and all these treatment options available for the radioactive waste, but still they are categorized, matlab they are broadly placed under the hazardous waste category. And this is because they also possess certain toxic effects on the living beings and environment. So that is why it is categorized under hazardous waste. Now these radioactive waste, they persist in the environment for a long period of time and the half-life determines their persistence in the environment. Now under the classification of hazardous waste, the second type is your biomedical waste. Just like your radioactive waste, even biomedical waste has a separate category of collection, segregation, treatment, disposal and so on. Still it is possessing certain toxicity or infective nature in them, they are categorized under this hazardous waste. So the toxicity and infectivity are the two main characteristics of the biomedical waste. Toxicity and infectivity are the two important characteristics of a biomedical waste which has fetched it a position in the hazardous waste category. Now the biomedical waste are generated from hospitals, health centers and research facilities. The third type of waste is your chemical waste. Now the chemicals, it can be a organic, synthetic, metal, acidic, basic or any salt. All chemicals come under the hazardous category. They are hazardous based on the level of toxicity. A waste stream that contains any waste at level equal or greater than the threshold values such as streams are considered as hazardous. The fourth type of waste is your flammable waste. Once again, dual grouping is done for this particular waste. Now the flammable waste can be a gas, liquid or solid. Any organic sludges, plasticizers, solvents are some of the examples of this flammable waste. Now these wastes are hazardous and they need a special management. The fifth category is your explosives. Similar to flammables, they also need a special management method. Now they are produced from manufacturing and generated from industrial gases. The last category of waste is your household hazardous waste. Now in our everyday life we generate municipal waste, I mean the commingled waste, which is a mixture of biodegradable, non-biodegradable, recyclables and so on. So these hazardous waste which is disposed along with the municipal waste should also be treated under the hazardous waste category because it contains certain hazardous materials. It can include maybe the paints, nail polish, latex, paints, batteries, then any other chemicals, e-waste, pesticides or chlorinated and non-chlorinated solvents which are generally being used in our day-to-day life. Now let us discuss about the collection and the storage of the hazardous waste. Now how do you collect it? Since these are hazardous waste, you need a proper collection method. Now, the hazardous waste collection methods and containers generally depend upon the nature or the characteristics of the waste. Now, the precautionary measures have to be taken while handling, storage and transporting these hazardous waste. The compatibility of the waste should always be assessed before storing them in a specific type of container. Example, if you have a corrosive waste and if you store in a container which can corrode easily, then it will spoil the container as well as the waste will get affected. So, that is why you have to keep this in mind. The collection and storage of hazardous waste also will depend on the amount of generation. If the waste is generated in less quantity, they can be stored and disposed of at regular intervals. If they are in large quantity, then you have to do everyday transfer and disposal. The containers used to store or collect these hazardous waste should be generally made of fiberglass or glass lined containers for corrosive acids or caustic solutions. Now, the lined containers, they should usually avoid the reaction between the metals and the container. Now, what are the other containers which are used? One would be the PVC lined containers, single wall drums like your pressure vessel, exotic metal drums which are generally made of aluminum, nickel, stainless steel and laboratory packs which are used in universities and research laboratories. Now, the single wall drums are filled with nitrogen and they are generally used for storing reactive, flammable and explosive waste. Now, the EPA guidelines, now according to the EPA guidelines, the containers which are used for collection and storage of these hazardous waste should always be closed and sealed, and only when you add or remove the waste, the seal has to be opened, and once again you have to seal them after you add or remove the hazardous waste. Always you should take care that the containers does not get ruptured, which might lead to spillage or leakage of the hazardous material which are stored in the containers. Now, generally two types of storage areas are designated for the hazardous waste. One is your central accumulation area and the other one is satellite accumulation area. Now, the liquid waste should be collected and stored in a manner to avoid inhalation, accidental spillage and the vapor buildup. Now, to prevent this, the container must either be fitted with a drum funnel screw lid or a latching drum lids. The drum funnel screw is nothing but it is fitted with a closed lid containers and the latch drum lids are of open lid containers. Irrespective of the lid should have a good gasket mechanism. You might have seen in pressure cookers you have a gasket, right? So, same way these lids should have a gasket mechanism. This will make the container seal leak proof and airtight. Now, for a solid or semi-solid hazardous waste, the lid should be closed with continuous gasket and fusible plugs. These plugs will help in collecting the vapors that are escaping from the waste. Now, labeling is again very important for hazardous waste collection and storage. Now, this label should have all details like the symbol of manufacturer, year of manufacturing, specification, capacity and single trip or multi-trip containers. So, all these things should be listed while you label the container. Now, the waste stored in these large storage tanks are generally pumped into the collection vehicle and it is taken for treatment or disposal. However, if you see the sealed containers should be transferred to the collection vehicle and taken as such to the treatment or disposal site. Because once you seal it after you add the waste, you should not disturb it. If you disturb it, there might be leakage or vapors can come and all those things. So, once you pack it, it will be sealed and it will be carried as such to the vehicles and to the disposal site. There are special trucks called as your flatbed trucks which are specifically used for this purpose, which cover a short distances. Now, the large tank trucks, trailers and railroad tanks are generally used for long distance travel. Now, this table talks about the different collection equipment which are used for various types of hazardous waste. The first one, the radioactive substances. Now here you can use various types of trucks and railroad equipment depending upon their characteristics. Always you have to give a special marking that will show the safety hazard. Also you should take care of the heavy loading equipment which handles the concrete encased lead containers. For toxic chemicals you can use flatbed trucks which carries the stored drums. Now the tractor, trailer, truck are used for carrying the large volume of waste. Likewise, the railroad tank cars are with the special interior linings like glass, fiber and rubber can be used for carrying toxic chemicals. Now the third category, the biological waste, again you use a standard packer collection truck which with certain special precautions like to prevent contact between the waste and the collector. Also you can use flatbed trucks for certain types of waste which are generally sealed in the drums. The fourth type is your flammable waste. This possesses the same thing as that of your toxic chemicals, but the special coloring should be required with safety warnings which should be printed on the vehicles which are carrying the flammable waste. Then you have the explosive waste. Now for the explosive, again just like your toxic chemicals, explosive chemicals can also be carried in a flatbed trucks or railroad tank cars. But here you have certain restrictions like the transport routes should be designed and it should not be taken through the residential area. That is the only thing you have to keep it in mind. Rest all is like your toxic chemicals, you have to follow the same. Now we have discussed about the collection and storage. Now let us discuss about the segregation. Now the hazardous waste material should be first segregated based on their physical form, whether it is an organic material or aqueous material or sludge. Now these forms will further decide the course of action for this particular waste, what sort of treatment you are going to give or what is the disposal options that you are going to follow for these waste. Now the level of segregation of these hazardous waste that should be followed is very important for the treatment, storage and disposal of different kinds of waste. Now it is relatively easy to deal with this waste and that are highly segregated. So you should segregate the waste in a proper manner. Now a waste that is concentrated is generally much easier and it can be more economically handled than the one that is in a large quantity of water or soil. Now dealing with the hazardous waste is facilitated with the original quantities of waste which are minimized and the waste remains separated and concentrated. Now once the waste is segregated, it is ideally subjected to different treatment and disposal options upon further processing. Now the transport of hazardous waste into the environment is very important, which depends upon the characteristic of waste. Now the physical properties of hazardous waste like your volatility, solubility, they generally contribute to a large extent into the environment. Like highly volatile hazardous waste, they are generally transported through the atmosphere and the soluble ones are carried through water. The compound volatility will generally determine the distribution of hazardous waste constituent between the different spheres like your atmosphere, geosphere or the hydrosphere. So the entry of these hazardous waste into the different matrices depends upon the nature or characteristics of the hazardous material. Now in the hydrosphere and often in soil, the hazardous waste constituents are generally dissolved through water. Therefore, the tendency of water to hold the constituents depends upon the mobility factor. For example, if you take ethyl alcohol, they have a high evaporation rate and a low boiling temperature than toluene. So the vapor of the latter, I mean the toluene, is more readily evolved from the soil because of its limited solubility in water when compared to ethanol. Now this is what is explained as a transport of hazardous material. Now the chemical factors will also influence or contribute to the transport of waste. Example, like if you have a clay mineral in soil, they generally bind with elements. Now they bind strongly with certain elements like your cadmium, mercury, lead and zinc, and certain elements are moderately binded like your potassium, magnesium, ferrous and silicon. There are also some other elements like sodium, calcium, manganese and boron which are poorly and they bind very poorly with the soil. or the clay mineral. Now, generally you should note that the retention of iron and manganese is it's a strong function of the oxidation state. You all know every element has its own oxidation state. Now, the oxidation state or the reduced form like the ferrous and manganese are poorly retained unlike your oxidized form like your Fe2O3 and MnO2, which are insoluble and they stay for a long period in the soil. Now, this figure shows the waste segregation pattern for a segregated waste, partially mixed waste and unsegregated waste. So, let us start off with unsegregated waste. When you talk about the unsegregated waste, the dilute sludge containing the mixed organic and inorganic waste are under that. From that, if you talk about the next category, partially mixed waste, like if you have a mixed organic material containing little or no water, or if it is diluted mixed organic sludge, they are under partially mixed waste. Now, under the segregated waste, if you see, you have the organic sludges, aqueous and sludges broadly if you categorize. So, within the organic waste, you have spent halogenated solvents from cleaning parts, then you have spent hydrocarbon solvents, then you have waste solution from electroplating industries. Now, then you have spent steel pickling liquor, wastewater treatment sludge from pigment production and spent aqueous chromate sludge. When you segregate the waste, you can segregate them into different classes so that it will facilitate better treatment and disposal options. After segregation, the next step in a waste management plan is your transfer station. Now, unlike your municipal solid waste, hazardous waste generally does not require a transfer station. This is because the collection vehicles that carry the containers with the hazardous waste are generally taken directly to the treatment or the disposal site. So, generally the requirement of a transfer station is nullified in case of hazardous waste unlike your municipal solid waste. Now, to summarize this module, at the end of this module we have discussed or you might have understood what is an hazardous waste, how do you define an hazardous waste according to the RCRA regulation. Then we went about by discussing the various characteristics of hazardous waste in detail like your ignitability, corrosivity, reactivity and toxicity. Then we discussed about the various sources from where these wastes are generated. So, under the sources we discussed about the specific, non-specific and commercially chemical compounds. Then we discussed about what are the different ways by which these hazardous waste can be collected. Then we discussed about various storage options that are available for these hazardous waste. Then we discussed about the various characteristics of collection containers which you generally prefer for the hazardous waste. Finally, we discussed about how to segregate these hazardous waste according to the nature or characteristics of hazardous waste. Finally, we saw what is the requirement or need of transfer station. I hope this module would be of help to you. Thank you.